Okay, so first thing to note is we are SatoriPrime.com. My name is Guy Ferdman. Normally my brother does these presentations alongside with me, but he has a wife that's pregnant and something came up, and not an emergency, so not to worry, but he had to attend to that. So I'm going to be leading this presentation tonight on my own. No big deal. I'm still going to have fun with you guys. And just something to take note before we get started is write down any questions that you might have during the conversation. This is going to be a very different kind of training, not like most people are used to. This is not technical content, but in my opinion, might be even more important than really what you know business-wise. This is really just aimed at you and your mindset and what makes people successful in this business, really what it takes to have the type of mindset that allows that kind of success. So if you saw the title of the email today, it's called Dropping Bombs on Your Reality. There's a reason that we did that. We just want to really challenge you to take a look at your life and your reality and how you got to where you got to, and then from that point really springboard to where you want to get to. So that's kind of where we're going tonight. So just a little short intro about us. SatoriPrime.com has been established as a virtual incubator for entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs alike. Our goal has and always, is and always has been to really just assist people with whatever it is that's important to them in life. So I know for a lot of people, establishing their own business and living that life of freedom is very important, just like it is for Elon and myself, and that's really where the idea and the business got started, and ever since then, that's what we've been creating with people. Tonight's webinar, as I said earlier, has an intention, obviously. Like the bullet point says, is to have you really rethink your reality in order to empower you in your life. We're also looking to stop, the past coming in from affecting how your future is going to go, and you're going to learn what it takes to actively create your life. So I'm going to be sharing some kind of personal things tonight that I haven't shared, and this is really taking a lot of the trainings that we've done and just taking them to a whole new level. If you have questions or anything, just write them in the box over there. I know you can also raise your hand and just butt in. I can't really see your questions right now, but I'll hear the sound ding, so I'll know that you got a question. Obviously, you could take notes tonight if you like, but we always find that it's more important just to be present, listening, and all that good stuff, and just don't make yourself wrong for maybe not getting something if you don't get it on the first attempt. Either way, this will be recorded and you'll be able to listen back to it, but you'll get what you'll get and you won't what you won't. Okay, so let's dive right into this, and we'll see what happens. All right. So we always like to start with this, and we call it a new paradigm for listening. There's a very specific way that humans tend to listen that really disables them from getting the most what they can out of communication. Elon and I always say that anything can be solved inside of communication. So how do humans normally listen? Well, humans normally listen through our opinions. That's generally the filter that we use, which means that everything that someone says to you, you have a comment about it. That's kind of like an ongoing process in your mind, So you're kind of having two conversations at one time. And the conversation is usually something like, well, I agree with this, I don't agree with this, is this right, is this wrong, does this fit into my life, does it not fit into my life? It's all this kind of gibberish that's going on in your head, and it doesn't really let you be present to what's really being said. So instead of tonight looking for the right answer, just kind of be, dance with the conversation. There really is no right or wrong answer. Nothing we share here is the truth. It's just stuff you can try on, like you would go to any store and try on a jacket and see if it works for you. Great. If it doesn't, you get to drop it off and leave it right there and then. So this is kind of the same idea. Is you really just want to listen. If a concept works for you, fantastic. Take it away. Start using it. If not, no big deal. Okay. And then another thing that might stop you from hearing something new is saying things like, "I already know this." So just be conscious of that too. So for the next 40 minutes or so, I'm asking you to just put your opinions off to the side. I promise you'll get them back when this presentation's over, but it'll really let you kind of listen to this in a new way if you've heard something like this before. And just know that 80% of this is just showing up. You've already done that, so the rest is just kind of be in your seats, participating and actively listening. Okay, so let's dive right on into this. And this is really cool. We're going to be talking about what is reality and how humans actually test reality. So there's 3 tests to reality. The third one we're not going to touch up upon too much. It's very existential, esoteric, whatever you want to call it. It's called the ultimate test for reality. And really, an ultimate test for reality is if something exists in time and space and has form. You could do some research on physics and find that out for yourself. So we're going to not talk about that too much tonight because I want to bring it more to a ground level, something you can really take away and start using in your life today. So the whole point of this is really, like I said, just to question your reality. So let's look at the first way that humans assess their reality, okay? And the first way we do that is obviously our personal test. Now, when talking about a personal test of reality, we're talking about simply the 5 senses. So we got touch, taste, smell, vision, and I'm sure I missed one there. I just don't remember which one, and probably I think listening is the one I left out. Okay, so for the most part, that's how we test our reality is through our 5 senses. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I want you to take a look at your life, because I know at some point in time, every one of these tests for reality has probably failed you. Whether you thought you saw something and then upon closer inspection, it wasn't what you thought it was, or whether sometimes you kind of hear someone calling your name and you turn around and you're sure somebody's calling your name and nobody's there, or you taste something and you're sure it's something you've had before and you go ahead and ask somebody, what is this, and you're sure you know what it is and it's not. And if you really look at that in your life, at some point in time in your life, your personal tests for reality have failed you. And my point here is not to dismantle any truths. I don't necessarily believe in truths in my life anymore. I think what everyone believes is valid for them, but I know that humans interact with what's valid for them as if it's the ultimate truth. And I want you to just start taking a look at that. Maybe your personal test for reality is not a great test for what is the truth. And just look for examples in your life and just think about different times in your life where those things have failed you, and see that it's not always consistent with what's real. Okay, so that's just something to think about for yourself. The next test for reality is called communal test for reality. It's sometimes called interim test for reality. And in this test for reality, it's humans believe something is real and true if a majority of people believe in it. Okay, so I'll say it again. So humans believe that something is true and is a good test for reality if a majority of us believe in it, right? So for instance, and we'll take this back really old school, but at some point in time, humans did believe that the Earth was the center of the universe. It was true. It was absolutely true. And because of that truth, there were certain things that humans thought. And it's actually really interesting if you think about, why was it such a big deal when they discovered that the Earth was not at the center of the universe. It wasn't so much about the actual discovery, it was about the impact that had on the human race, because up until that point, humans kind of believed that they were divinity. And when that message came out that it was no longer the center of the universe, there was a huge paradigm shift that had to happen to humans, because we had to get related to the fact that maybe we are not gods. And I could see how that, that idea probably had to permeate for hundreds of years through humanity, and that's why it was fought for. Also, another great example is at some point they believed the Earth was flat, and boats would not go out to the horizon. They were limited by this test of reality that they believed to be true. They just wouldn't go out in fear of that they would actually fall off the edge of the Earth. And again, you have to understand that the reason it was such a big deal when they discovered the Earth was round, and it was so threatening, because it didn't threaten people. It threatened ideology. It threatened what they believed to be true, and it threatened the way that we lived our lives. And suddenly, when you're thrown into a new reality, you're in the unknown, it's a very uncomfortable place to be. Now again, even though that was the truth, those things over time have been disproven. And if you really look at, things that have gone on even in the last 100 years, a lot of things that we thought to be true really are no longer true. Even 10 years ago, I'm sure there's examples you can think of that just have absolutely no validity in reality whatsoever anymore. So again, this is just to kind of start opening you up to the fact that maybe perhaps if you really look at everything that's going on, the things that you hold true are not quite true. And I really want you to start applying these type of ideas to yourself. And the reason these are empowering concepts, if you haven't kind of gotten to it already, is because if it's, if what you believe about yourself is not ultimately the truth, then you have to understand there's something, you're actually actively in the process of creating your truth, except if you're not conscious of it, then you're living your life as if things are happening to you rather than making things happen. And said another way is that you're actually living at the effect of life rather than affecting your life. If you understand that reality, what's true, is just a basis of what you're creating. It's really created from conversation itself, literally from the words that you speak. If you actually went around all day long and recorded everything that you said throughout the day into a recorder and then listened back to it at the end of the day, you'd be very clear about why your reality in your life seems the way that it does. You'll actually notice that your words are exactly based, actually create your reality. So the whole point of this is to just have you be conscious, be aware, be present to the fact that maybe what you're saying is actually the very thing that's holding you back from having what you really, really want. And the whole point here is to really just align your conscious mind with your unconscious mind, because realize that for all this time, while you've been unconscious to your thoughts, while you haven't been present, you've been training your unconscious mind to think a particular way. Now you can sit there and tell yourself, well, I want $1 million, I want the perfect relationship, I want to spend more time with my family, I want to do all these things. But if you've trained your unconscious mind to believe something for an extended period of time, your unconscious mind and your conscious mind are always going to be in this quarrel, and until they're aligned with each other, it's very difficult to actually produce the results you want in life. In fact, you'll actually, most of the time, if not all the time, end up sabotaging yourself and not getting what you want. And that's where a lot of people get stuck, okay? So those are the 3 levels of reality. And then we're going to move on. I'm going to give you one of the best examples that I know to give anybody. We're going to be talking about past, present, and future. So you see that representation over there on the right, and unfortunately we're not engaged in the conversation, so I'm going to just slow this down a little bit. I'm going to present some questions here, and I really want you to just sit there and think of some answers for yourself before I kind of give the answers that I want to give you guys. So the first question is, what do we really know? So what am I asking here? Well, if you look at that pie chart over to the right, and let's say it didn't have that yellow, the yellow section cut out. It was just the full red circle. And I asked you, as a human race, as a people, out of all the things there are to know in the universe, the infinite millions of things there are to know in the universe, if we had to represent that on that pie chart, how would, what portion of that pie chart would we actually take up? So by best estimates, I think if we just put took a pencil and just dotted the paper one time, I think that would actually be being generous. 10% is insane if we knew all of the things that there are to know. We actually don't know all that much, but for the most part, humans walk around like we kind of know everything, don't we? If somebody tells us something in their opinion and we don't agree, we just act like we know the truth. Like this person has no idea. We're so sure that our truth is the truth. So now I want to take you to a little bit farther down the rabbit hole. There's 3 levels to what we know, okay? So you might want to write this down if you have a pen and paper next to you. The first level of knowing is that you know what you know, and you know that you know it. It's a little bit of a mouthful, I'll say it again. So you know what you know, and you know that you know it, okay? The second part of knowing is you know what you don't know, and you know that you don't know it. So again, so you know what you don't know, and you know that you don't know it. So for instance, in the first example, so I know that I know my name, and I know that I know where I live, my phone number, what my favorite food is, my parents' birthdays, all sorts of phone numbers, my favorite places to go online, all different kinds of stuff that I know, right? Or like algebra or something. And then I also know that I don't know a lot of things, like I know that I don't know how to fly a plane or perform brain surgery or speak Japanese. And where traditional education takes place, it's what we call informational education, is in those 2 arenas of knowing. So if, let's say, I wanted to learn how to speak Japanese, I could actually go to school, take Japanese lessons, and become proficient in Japanese. Now, in informational study, all you do is take things that you don't know, and you put them into the pile that you know that you know. And that's really where traditional education takes place. All the things we're talking about today are not informational type of education. This is transformational type of education. So now there's a 3rd level to knowing, and this is really where transformation for people takes place. I'm going to give you concrete examples from your own life so you can really map yourself onto this. Now the 3rd level is you don't know that you don't know it, and you don't know that you don't know it. So if I had to ask you, what is it that you don't know that you don't know? you probably couldn't give me an answer. It's actually kind of like a trick question. There's no way of not knowing what you don't know. It's unknowable. So that's, if we look at that pie chart again, if, subtract that dot that we took away, the rest of that pie is all the things that we don't know and that we don't know that we don't know. It's like we haven't discovered them yet, right? It's kind of like if you're a human being you have this like blind spot. If you put like your hand, right behind your head, outside of your peripheral vision, it's almost like every time you turn your head, this hand is like right behind your head. And even though it's there, just like a blind spot in a car, let's say, even though if you can't see that car while you're driving, if you were to turn the car into the left lane and there's a car there, even if you can't see the car, it's going to have a very real and profound effect on your life. In fact, it could be quite a disaster. And that's kind of what we walk through life with. We have all these things that happen to us, okay? So I'm going to give you some examples here as we go through this. And let me just take a look at my next slide so I'm making sure that we're not... Okay, good. So, the claim I'm really trying to make here, after all that, is that your past has nothing to do with your present. When I ask the question to somebody is, how did you get to be the person that you are in the present? Try to think of some answers. I'm actually going to shut up for about 10 to 15 seconds here and think to yourself, how did you get to be who you are in the present moment? And just come up with some answers before I kind of give it to you. So I'm going to be quiet. All right, so you might have thought of things like my family or books that I've read, teachers I've had, friends I've had, really anything that had some kind of influence on you while you were growing up. The human experience seems to be that we're sure that who we are in the present moment is a function of our past. In fact, they say, what's that saying? If you want to know where you're going, you got to know where you've been, that kind of thing, right? So that is the human experience. Now, I'm going to really twist this thing on its head, and I'm going to say that your past has very little, if anything, to do with who you are in the present moment. In fact, I'm going to say that your present moment is entirely given to you by the future that you're living into. And I'm going to give you an example of this because I'm sure everyone on this line, everyone on this webinar has experienced this in some shape or form, okay? So what's the example I want to give you? Let's say it's winter where you are. I'm in New York City. Winter here is absolutely dreadful. And so let's say I'm going to put myself there. It's Friday night. I'm at my job that I don't have anymore, thankfully. A round of applause. And it's snowing outside. It's February. It's bleak. It's dark. It's disgusting. It's one of these days where it's dark by 4 p.m. And let's say I have a boss, and this boss is giving me, another project and another project. He's annoying me all day. I have one of those lights over my head that's been flickering all day. It's just one of these horrendous, annoying days that you cannot stand. Okay? But today, I don't care at all. Like, I'm completely unaffected by my circumstances. And the reason that I'm unaffected by my circumstances is I actually know that in my desk drawer, I have 2 tickets that are taking me to my favorite vacation spot, let's say Hawaii, and they're taking me and my best friend or my best girl to Hawaii for 2 weeks. In a few hours I'm leaving, I'm getting on the plane. Regardless of what's happening at work in that moment, it doesn't matter at all. Like, I'm so unaffected by it because I know what's coming. Now let's fast forward the same situation. I could be in Hawaii 2 weeks later, last day I'm there, be sitting in a hammock, it's been the most pristine weather the last 2 weeks. I'm tan. I'm looking good. There's beautiful people everywhere. Favorite drink in hand. Just living the life. The most gorgeous place on earth. Now, I know that I'm going to work the next day. Where are you in that present moment? You're already worrying about all the projects you got to get back, the flight home, that you're going to be tired, all the misery, all the dread. Everything is so present to you. So if you get this, you actually notice that who we are in the present moment is completely at the effect of the future that we're living into. And now the next logical question is, okay, Guy, well, if it's the future that I'm living into that's giving me who I'm being in the present moment, why does the experience feel so much like it's our past? So I'm going to give you a really personal example from my own life. Right now, I'm just a shade shy of 28 years old. When I was in my early teen years till about 19 years old, I dealt with some pretty nasty depression. In fact, to the point where I was, like suicidal and not a pretty life, really like hell on earth for me, that kind of thing. And I don't really remember where that idea started. I grew up in a very loving family, very supportive, and it's just funny that that happens. I'm a true believer that, you just get what you need to get when you need to get it, to get life lessons. But regardless of that, I remember around 14 years old, I had a best friend of mine whose father had a really bad battle with cancer and actually beat the cancer. And this individual was a very big adult figure in my life growing up. He was like my soccer coach, drove me to school a lot. My best friend's dad. He was like a second father to me, pretty much. A few months after, he'd beaten the cancer, he actually relapsed. And within a few months, this gentleman who looked like, very fit 40-year-old gentleman went to looking like a 75-year-old and died shortly thereafter. And it was not a pretty thing. Now, I'm not telling you this to depress you or about anything that happened to me. Believe me, I appreciate that time in my life more than anything right now. The reason I'm telling you this is because I made a particular decision about my life at that point in time. And the decision I made when he died, his name was Kenny, when Kenny died, was that bad things happen to good people. I distinctly remember having that thought. And I thought I was a good person. And now if you have that thought about life, whether it's a conscious or unconscious thought, think about it this way. When you make decisions about things, it's like putting on a pair of sunglasses. At first you see the shade, right? But if you wear it long enough, it kind of fades into the background. It just becomes the way things are. The shade actually becomes part of your reality. And that's kind of what happened to me. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And for the next 5 years or so, I really lived a pretty terrible life. It was just like bad things would happen to me all the time. And it was like I was just collecting proof for the idea that I had, but this idea was that bad things happen to good people, and everything just fit into that idea. So for all those years, if somebody tried to tell me it's not that way, I'm not that way, I would say, you know what, I don't believe you because I have a stack of proof over here. I would just cordially invite them to take a look at my 5 years of textbook proof of that this was all true, and I couldn't let it go. And when I got into personal development around 19 years old, this amazing distinction arose, and I'll never forget this moment for as long as I live, and this is why I know that transformation for people is possible, because I've actually gone through it personally, and I know that transformation takes nothing but a second to actually happen. And one of the main things that I saw is oftentimes there's like the what happened in life, right? And then there's like the story that we as humans create about what happened. Now, why that doesn't work for us is because we actually live the story, we don't actually live the what happened. You're actually not associated with reality, and this is exactly why we're having this reality conversation today. So what I saw for myself was, look, all that happened is Kenny died. The fact that I made it bad things happen to good people had no basis in reality, but I was living that. So when I actually separated the two, it was like I had two overlapping circles. When I got to separate those two circles and distinguish, what happened from the story I created about it, it empowered me to have a choice that I never saw before. And that choice was that I can either continue living the way that I was living inside my story, and that was my choice to do that or not. But the definition of reality is doing the same thing over and over again, and and expecting a different result. And that's exactly what I had been doing for 5 years. I was doing the same thing over and over again, and expecting somehow to feel better, and I never did. Until the moment that I got that it's just a story, and that there's this what happened. And I remember I left the second day of the class when I was doing personal development. I was in Boston at the time, in Boston, Massachusetts, here in the States. And I was walking back towards the subway station. It's called the T over there. And I'll never forget, I was just thinking about all the things that came up for me during the day. And I took one step down the staircase to go down to the T station. And I remember like a bolt of lightning hit me. Like I just had some kind of realization about that distinction. And by the next second when my foot hit that second stair, I was like a changed human being. I actually knew that I would never be the same person again. And that's really where I got started with personal development. It completely altered my life. I mean, within days, within weeks, within months, I had done a 180 in my life. I mean, people just literally would stop me and say, what happened? Because I was just so different from that day because of that single realization had such a strong impact on me. So, the whole point of this is to tell you this, that your past is having an effect on you. And the reason it's having an effect on you is because what we do is these decisions that we make in the past, we actually misfile them and put them into our future. So even though that decision happened when I was 14 years old, I filed that away into my future. I actually start living with that expectation. So in my present moment, I'm constantly affected by that. I was affected by that conversation that bad things happen to good people. When you get those things complete in your past, you're right. When you're willing to give it up, you're willing to just let it go. Kind of like take your past, put it on the bookshelf. You acknowledge that it's there, but you no longer let it have a hold on you. What you end up with is an empty future. And when you have an empty future, you literally become part of the action, part of the process, part of the creative process of actually creating your life on a moment-by-moment basis. It's like someone hands you a blank blackboard, or they take the blackboard, they wipe everything off it, and they say, here you go, start painting the life that you want. And that's really what's available to you literally as in the moment by moment. It's really up to you what kind of life you're going to live. You're either going to live your stories or you're going to get really related to reality and you're going to start creating your stories. Realize that at the end of the day, it's really all BS. So if you're going to make something up using language, you might as well make things up that actually empower you rather than disempower you. And that's really what's available to you all the time. It's just a matter of choosing and realizing that you have a choice. All right, so before we move on to the next slide, I just want to really touch upon this quick. There's a concept called be, do, have. We talk about it a lot in my community and when I train people. And I just want to give you a different way of thinking about things because humans don't operate from being. They operate from doing for the most part. And here's what I mean by that. First of all, I want you to take note of that we're called human beings. We're not called human doings. It's actually almost irrelevant when something is not working to look at what you're doing to try to get the result you want. It's much, much more powerful to look at who you're being. So how humans regularly operate is they say, all right, let me look at what I'm doing. Right? So let's say you want a particular result. You want to be happy. And you think that the way to be happy is to have a lot of money. So you're going to do a lot of work to have money, right? So we're going to do the first part, so do, have, be. So what you're going to do is a lot of work. You think that that's going to allow you to have money, and the end result is going to be happiness. Right? But then you get a lot of money and you realize, man, I'm still not happy. Or you think to yourself, I'm going to find myself a woman or a man, and then I'm going to have my marriage, and then I'm going to be happy. And then you get there, and boom, you're not married. Then you think, all right, I'm going to get divorced from this person, and you go and do that so you can have your freedom back, and then you think you're going to be happy, and you're still not happy. All right, so if we look at that, maybe doing and having in that order is really not what's going to make you happy. You just got to look at being first, right? So being is a now. It's a moment. It's a moment by moment phenomenon. It's not something that you get to as an end result. Women don't wake up in the morning and say to themselves, today I'm going to be a woman. It just happens. It's very naturally occurring. When you get in your car and you drive in the morning, you don't have to get in the car and tell yourself, right now I'm going to be a driver. It's very naturally occurring. But there's a lot of things in life that it's not naturally occurring. Like being happy doesn't seem to be as easy as being a woman or being a driver for whatever reason. But it really is just as simple as creating the being of happy. And what happens when you create being is that the actions you take, the doing, are natural to do based on that being, right? So you choose what you're going to be. So look, if I woke up in the morning and I'm choosing to be mean today, I'm going to be impatient with people. I'm not going to care. I'll have no commitment to them. It's all about me, 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 me. But if I wake up in the morning and I choose to be generous, I'm going to have a lot of patience. I'm really going to care about people. I'm going to take my time with them. I'm going to give myself over to them. I'm going to do all those things. So it's very natural when you create a certain way of being to take actions consistent with that way of being, and that's what gives you the results that you want to have. So if you want to be a millionaire, it's not about doing or having a particular result so you can be a millionaire. You have to take on the mindset, the being of a millionaire, so you can do what millionaires do to have what millionaires have. And that's really the way that it works. So if something is not working for you in your life, this is something you've got to write down today. Don't look at what you're doing. First and foremost, look at who you're being, and the doing will just be so natural to take from there, and I promise you that will give you different results. And in my experience, not even 99.9% of the time, but 100% of the time, the results that you get out of transforming who you're being will be results that you will love and appreciate and enjoy so much more than just because you're doing something. All right, so that concludes this slide. We're going to move on to the next one. I hope you guys took something away from that, okay? So as I said before, all this stuff, getting all this clutter out of the way, questioning your reality, starting to look at, I really have the ability to create my reality, whatever I want, and do it however I want to do it, allows you to create from your empty future. Some questions that will help you get there are as following. You want to ask yourself, what have I been inauthentic about with myself or with others? And this is something we all do. We all know that humans, we're very good at wearing masks. What are you hiding? What are you pretending? Those are all kind of questions in the same vein. And you got to get really honest with yourself here, because a lot of the stuff you've probably been doing for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, I don't know. People do this for a long time because they're unaware of the fact that they created this false reality. And the case in point is whether or not you like your reality, and this is kind of a whole other conversation. Humans are habitual creatures just like every other animal, and whether or not you like what you're doing to yourself or not, you're going to keep doing it, because for humans it's easier to be comfortable than uncomfortable. And a lot of times, even though they know they don't want something, just because out of mere fact they've been doing it for so long, it's comfortable. It's predictable. Even if you're angry or you're depressed, you'll keep doing it because it's comfortable. And to have to give that up, you have to put yourself in a very uncomfortable place where you got to go and explore who are you really. And a lot of people are unfortunately unwilling to do that. But if you are willing to let yourself go there, be really authentic with yourself about where you've been inauthentic, your life is going to take on a whole new direction. The next thing you're going to want to ask yourself is, okay, so once you've uncovered something, you want to ask yourself, okay, what's missing in terms of being, not in terms of doing, that would legitimately make a difference, right? So what's missing, the presence of which would actually make a difference in my life? So if I was getting a particular result in my life and I saw that what inspires me is being, let's say, being in partnership, because that's actually something I'm taking on right now, that really inspires me, like building partnerships with people, being in partnership, whether it's with a relationship with women, whether it's with friends. For me, that's something that actually doesn't come very natural. I have to generate that on a moment-by-moment basis. But when I look at what's missing in my life, what's missing is being in partnership. And that really inspires me. So you got to have now the integrity to live it. And what really helps in this situation is once you have revelations, once you see something for yourself, you have to go and share it with the people in your community. You have to. If I know that even whether or not you're in personal development, you come up, we all ask ourselves questions and we have these revelations all the time. But if you're actually not sharing those revelations with the people in your life, there's going to be little to no impact on you at all in terms of actually getting something out of it. Because if you're not sharing it, there's no space for you to be that around the people in your life. Because you have to understand that you've trained the people in your life to hear you a particular way, to listen to you a particular way, to deal with you a particular way. It's like we're all walking around each other on eggshells. And when you when you see something for your life, if you're not sharing that with the people in your life, there's no way that they're going to see you through those eyes. They're going to see you through the same old filters. And you're going to get really frustrated because you're going to feel like you don't have the space to be that person around them. So we call this enrollment. When you enroll somebody in what you've seen for yourself, you have to go share, who you were before, what you saw for yourself, and now what you're newly committed to. And you actually have to allow that person to hold you accountable for what you saw. Otherwise, this stuff tends to have a very low impact. Like you'll see it for a day. It's kind of like when New Year's rolls around and everyone's really excited about taking on their health. You go to the gym in January, it's packed. By February, it's back to the same old attendance. And that's because the people don't create a system that holds them accountable to it. And unfortunately, humans are kind of really slimy when it comes to that stuff, and they'll always kind of give themselves room to get off the hook. But that sharing kind of keeps you in that space. It's like humans are really good at getting past their walls, but they're terrible at putting that wall behind them so that they can't move back. And that sharing really puts that wall behind you so you don't have that room to go back on your word. And I promise you that's really what you want. And I know that might be scary for some people over here, but if you really want to make those changes, it's so important to share what you're seeing for yourself with the people in your life. Okay, and then again, the last question, so who could you now be that you haven't been, haven't been being? So look at, if I was looking at partnership and I was like, okay, so what would this actually offer in my life? Well, it would offer me vulnerability with people, closer relationships, more empathy, more understanding, less selfishness, things like that. And that's what would show up just out of me being in partnership with people. And that's definitely something, I'm not saying I'm not, I'm terrible, I'm this horrible person, but it's something that would make a huge impact on my life, all right? So really sit for yourself. If you want to write down these questions, when I post this training, I'll actually post it with the PowerPoint so you guys can see it. But unfortunately, you can only see it if you have a Mac because I did this on Keynote. Okay, so that's that slide. And that's really kind of covers everything tonight. And I just wanted to give people an opportunity to take a look at something. You know, a lot of people on the line here tonight either found us through a landing page where you opted in, now you're on my list, and you know, I talked to you about my business opportunity. Some of you guys have probably come in through my website, you know, and you don't really know what we do, and maybe you want to find out. So if you have registered on my website before, then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go over to carboncopypro.com/apply. And if you use that promotion kit, you're actually going to get 75% off our normal application kit price. So you're actually going to get it for $9.95. We normally sell them for $39.95. Okay, so if you registered, again, go over to carboncopypro.com/apply. There's 2 boxes there. The first is for an email address. Make sure you plug in the email that you used when you originally found us, and put in the promo code 9KIT, and you'll be taken over to a special page where you get that promotion. And then if you are not yet registered into our system, what you can do is actually go over to SatoriPrimePro.com. That's one of our landing pages. You'll see a box there that allow you to register yourself, and then it's going to take you to a second page where you can actually review information about ourselves, about how it is that we work with people and how we help people not only transform their lives on a personal level, but actually create the lives that they want, you know, financially speaking. So you're going to want to review all the text, the audio, and the videos on that page. And then once you've done that, again, you can actually go to carboncopypro.com/apply, put in the promo code 9KIT, and you'll be offered the same promotion. Okay, so this is for anybody that's interested in working with us, wants to know more about exactly how it is we work and what it is that we do. That's where you want to go. And the other thing I want to let you know, and I always say this, and we'll do this right before I get to the Q&A if anybody has any questions, otherwise, you know, we'll wrap it up tonight and I'll let you get back to your families, is if you've never checked out magnetic sponsoring, I know a lot of people here on the line are already in a business opportunity, or they're really interested in internet marketing and they might not know why they're struggling. So if you've never heard of magnetic sponsoring, it's a book and a class by Mike Dillard, who's probably the grandfather. You know, he's a young guy, but he's the grandfather of magnetic sponsoring and attraction marketing, if you've ever heard that term. And it literally outlines step by step what it takes to actually attract people to you. So rather than doing marketing that, you know, you're going to spend a lot of money, this is the perfect way to generate leads, prospects, pretty much for free, through the methods of attraction marketing. I mean, he literally changed the network marketing industry when he created this terminology and this education. So if you go over to ms.satoriprime.com, it's just a redirect, and it'll take you right over to that. In fact, there's actually 7 free training videos that you can get over there. So whether or not you end up buying the system, I think it's like $39 for the whole thing, and it's, got to tell you, the best $39 I've ever spent. You know, you could still get 7 free training videos by Mike Dillard. So highly, highly recommend taking advantage of that. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the presentation.